Hi, everyone, and welcome to a special version of events episode where we are remembering my co-host and best friend, Jess. We unfortunately lost Jess in September, if you don't already know. And I wanted to do something special to remember her. So I've got with me Jayson Blair from the Silverlinings Handbook and Brett from the Prosecutors Podcast to talk about Jess today, things like how we met her, our funniest moment with her, if we can remember them, and our favorite moments with her. Jayson, do you want to start off with how you met Jess?
Well, first, Ellie, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Like you said or alluded to, Jess is a really special person and special person to me and to a lot of people. One of the things that, I think Brett pointed out when he, announced that Jess is gone. She's got a really sparky personality. And the way that I originally met her, one thing about me is like nothing will get me to pick up my sword and jump on my white horse more than somebody being attacked for their identity. But she was being beat up by some people, who she didn't have a great relationship with. And some of the language that they were using was really identity based. So, a friend of mine at the time just reached out and said, "Hey, do you see this and can you jump into it?" So I jumped into it, and it was the beginning of our friendship. And over time, I realized Jess was really interested in reporting, which I have a background in it. And she really proved it to me through her work because she kept digging up things on me. I'm like, no one remembers this stuff. And, over time, I just realized she challenged my thinking, my ideas. She was one of those few people where if she saw something different than me, it instantly caught my attention and caused me to pause. And we had, a lot of, beyond the interest in journalism, we had a lot of shared bonds and shared experiences. We both dealt with mental health stuff, and we both cared deeply about marginalized victims. And I just really became very interested in Jess finding her purpose, fulfillment, and, success on whatever those terms look like for her. And the one thing I can say that I was really happy about, in the weeks and months before she passed, she really seemed to have found a lot of fulfillment and a lot of happiness.
Yeah, I think so too. She seemed to be almost at peace with herself and her family, which was a big thing for her. I want to just say hi to Allison, who's joined us too today.
Hello, I just left it in North Korea, where my house is located. But thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. So, Brett, how did you meet Jess?
So Jess, she started off as just a listener of the podcast, and at some point she joined our group, The Gallery, and it didn't take very long for Jess to differentiate herself from everyone else, both because of the depth of her knowledge about all the cases that we would cover and the passion with which she would bring her personal opinions about those cases to bear. And she caught my eye very quickly. And I was just always very impressed by the knowledge that she would bring, to the point that very early on, I was starting to ask her questions about cases. Like, hey, have you ever heard of this case? What do you think about this? And just, she was such a resource of knowledge. I mean, her mind was so impressive. And as we got to know each other, I was like, hey, you need to be a researcher. You need to do a podcast of your own. Like, you've got so much going on. And she really did. Just an absolute joy to know. And we became one of those people that everybody needs, right? Like, she would ride into battle for you. People go after us all the time, as y'all well know. And, Jess was always there. She was never shy about picking up her sword and going into battle. And we became so much more than just podcast host, listener. She became a very close friend of mine, someone that I treasure, someone that I'll never forget. And I miss every day. I mean, just the number of times that I have sort of an instinct to go ask Jess something, then I have to remind myself that I'm not going to be able to do that. And I think that's going to happen for a long time. There was just a post in the gallery. Somebody was asking about a case, and somebody said, man, I wish Jessica was here, because she would be able to answer that question. And it's a huge void. I mean, she was a wonderful person in so many ways, and she's going to leave a huge void.
Yeah, she definitely is. I mean, I first met Jess in the gallery talking about West Memphis 3, as you do, and I got a detail wrong, so she corrected me, and I was having a bad day, so I told her to go away. And then I messaged her afterwards to say, I'm really sorry, I'm having a bad day. Didn't mean to take it out on you. And that was it. Fast friends, instant friends. Jess had a way of doing that, I think, of making friends with people and making them feel special. When she put her attention towards you, you felt you had all of her attention. And that was really special to me.
I'm not sure when she slept.
No.
It was like, it didn't matter. Like, you could wake up in the middle of the night with a question and she'd be there.
Yeah. Yeah. I can remember her once telling me that she was going off Zoom to go to bed. And I was like, what? You actually sleep?
I wondered about that myself.
So, Allison, how did you first meet Jess?
Well, my story begins like a lot of people's in this community. I met Jess on the gallery. And that was a few years ago. And it wasn't actually under the friendliest of circumstances either. And it was about a case, and I can't even remember what the case is now. Wouldn't surprise me if it was West Memphis 3, because I think that was the case that she was the most known for.
Yeah.
In terms of being that encyclopedia that you could tap. But I remember Brett and I were talking at the time on a back channel, and I was like, "Who is this person? I don't understand why they're so combative and all this." And I was like, "What did I do or whatever?" But over time, as I got to know her and her struggles and her circumstances and what she came from and everything, I ended up having a very deep understanding and connection to her through a lot of the struggles that she has gone through related to identity. My own kids are in that same category. And ultimately, Jess and I became sort of like a combined, I almost had like a maternal instinct toward her, the same way that that I have toward my kids, and that need to protect them from the world and the people that hurt them. And so I very instinctively brought her close to me and under my wing. And, but also at the same time, she was like a little sister that I never had, so it always seemed like, even though if I was on the periphery of the group or if I wasn't participating much, she would seek me out and bring me in. And she was always asking how I was doing, and always, just because I tend to retreat. I tend to get a little bit reclusive at times, and she was always finding me and keeping me part of things. And God, I miss her so much. I'm sorry. I haven't really talked aloud about this much since she died, other than with Brett and Jason via text. But every day, I think about her every single day.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I there's that motherly part of me that wishes that I could have done a little more. I wasn't as close to her toward the end. I hadn't talked to her in a few weeks when she died. But when we did last speak back in August, she was, as Jason and Brett pointed out, she seemed to be in such a good place. And I told her how proud of her I was. And I truly felt it. I really felt like she was in such a good place, and I loved her for it. I loved her so much.
And Allison, yeah, I think she was in a good place. I really do. Jess, one big difference between Jess and I is, and I'm sure Brett can relate to this. Jess really cared what other people thought of her. Me, not so much. And it was one of our like constant conversations, sort of like me trying to care a little bit more about what people think and her trying to care a little bit less. So for Jess, setbacks, often came in the form of other people being mad or upset or bothered at her or talking about her behind her back. And I remember those events used to be so destabilizing for her.
Yeah.
In the last few weeks, there were a couple incidents like that where people did or said silly things, and it bounced off her in a way that I hadn't seen before. And there was just to the point all of you guys are making, there was just a level of joy. And Allison, you made this point that one of the things that became really clear after Jess passed was how many people she touched. And, you made the point about sort of feeling like it was special. I remember I was having, a difficult time, like sorting something out, trying to figure out what to do when I was in CrimeCon in Denver. And then, this, what I would call rogue former podcaster wrote this article about me on Substack. And at the same time, like, Jess is like supporting me, supporting another podcaster who's going through a rough time, like analyzing the article and talking about true crime stories to me. And you made the point, she operated from an enormous well of love. And she had this love for, she wasn't a politician, but the only thing I can really describe it like is encountering a politician in a crowded room and it feels like the world stops and you're at the center of it.
Yeah.
I think despite all those setbacks, she was at the happiest I had seen her.
Yeah.
Yeah. She, I think, was from when we started the podcast together, she was the happiest and the most stable during that time that I'd seen her in several years. And I think the podcast and having that focus was a big part of it. But I think the other big part of it was her finding her religion again. I think that gave her a lot of peace. And I'm so happy that she had that in those final months and weeks. It made her more compassionate, if that's even possible. And I just love her for that.
I mean, the level of forgiveness that she was able to show at the end, because we have seen, a lot of us had seen her when she was probably at her lowest, dealing with her rivals, her enemies, let's say, the people online, particularly, who just could never let her go, and how she just would say some pretty dark things and wish some very dark things about, them and everything at her lowest and her most angry. and sort of walking her through that and guiding her through that and helping her, because you don't want to tell somebody who is saying, who is at their lowest like that, well, you shouldn't say things like that about, you want to be there for them while they are expressing all these feelings. And then at the end, toward the end, in the very last conversations, that seemed to have flipped in a way that she had found some grace for everybody, in a way that I was truly it made my heart feel good to see it, because I know how hard that is. I absolutely know how hard that is, to let a lot of that anger go. And she just points to her strength in a lot of ways.
I don't know if you know about this one, but I don't want to say it was close to the end, but it was a couple months ago. She came to me and we were talking. And that's another thing like Jess and I share in common and that we bonded over was faith and spirituality. And, just the belief that all things work for the good of those who love the Lord. And we were talking about a sort of principle within Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous is that a very important part of your healing is to make amends, to do an inventory of the wrongs that you've committed and to make amends. And one of the toughest ones to do is to make amends to people who have wronged you, right? Because you want to hold on to your grudges. And that was one of the things that she was really working on in the end. And one of the really cool things was, she was talking to me about these people who had wronged her that she felt she needed to apologize to for things she had done. Right. And, one of those tenets and principles is that you make those amends where they will do no harm to the other person, right? If the person is going to be triggered or have a negative reaction or it'll hurt them, you don't do it. And she had decided 2 people where she felt it wouldn't make amends to. And it was just so impressive to me that because we have this tendency as humans, to justify our mudslinging at people because they threw mud at us too. But for her to have the clarity to see that it didn't really matter what someone else did to her, that if she did something wrong, there was a benefit in making amends was like a really powerful thing to see.
This was something, obviously, Jessica and I, we talked about faith all the time. We talked about religion all the time, Christianity all the time, Jesus. And I loved her faith because she was so real. I mean, she was the kind of person that Jesus would have hung out with. Like, I thought about so often with her and some of the things she had to deal with, some of the people she had to deal with. In the Bible, there's a parable about a Pharisee and a publican. And a publican is a pretty low person in Jewish society, a sinner, one might say. And the Pharisee was the highest person in Jewish society, a high priest. And they go down to the temple, and the Pharisee is like, I thank God I'm not like that guy, that sinner. And the publican strikes his breast and says, Lord, forgive me, for I have sinned. And Jesus says, that man went down to his house more justified. And Jessica lived her struggles. She was not a hypocrite. She was she wasn't a Pharisee. She wasn't someone who sat in judgment over other people. You saw her struggles. She was so human. It was just so wonderful to walk through that, because so many people, want to act like, well, if you're religious, you have to be perfect. You have to project perfection. And she didn't do that. And she was the kind of person, there's a offshoot of the gallery, which is people who are religious and they like to talk about these things. And she was very active there, and she helped so many people and helped them through their struggles. And as Jason was saying, forgiving the people who, trespass against you, right? I mean, that's a core part of the Lord's Prayer. And just watching her work through that, it was so wonderful and inspiring to me to try and be a better person. And I don't know if she realized that the sort of because she was not full of herself and she wasn't a Pharisee, she probably didn't see the light that she was to the world in that way. But it's something that I think Jess affected so many people's lives in a positive way and in different ways. It could be that. It could be her faith. It could be her friendship. It could be someone who listens or someone who helps. I mean, she was always willing to help people with whatever they needed in whatever way she could. And I hope that she knew that, or I hope she knows it now, because the outpouring from people of just love for her in all these different ways. I mean, it was a dark time, but it was a wonderful thing to see in that dark time. I hope I can leave a legacy like she did.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For sure. I am not religious per se, but I'm very spiritual, and Jess had brought me more and more towards Christianity in a way that no one else ever had, and it's a path I want to continue, because there's nothing better than thinking that she is probably hanging out with Jesus right now and having the best time. And hopefully she saw that outpouring of love, and she knows now just how many people loved her, respected her. And I don't know, I just adored her in every way. She was brilliant because, like you say, Brett, she wasn't a hypocrite. She was just so pure, and
she knew how to meet people where they were. She had an insight into people that was unique in the sense that when she came to you, she immediately had a sense of how are you, where are you. If she was coming to me with something going on, she would always ask first, are you okay? Are you okay to hear me right now with this? And I would say, of course, but because a lot of people don't do that. And I'm not even saying that as a criticism. I think it's just something that doesn't occur to a lot of people, but she was one of those people. And when she did do it, it just kind of made it seem like, oh, wow, she is just so thoughtful. Here's this person who is experiencing a level of pain and rejection and, and things that she had been through when she and I were really at our most talkative. And she was in some crisis at that time. And it was just such a demonstration of the character and how unwarranted the hatred was toward her, that somebody who just, was constantly battling this kind of stuff had that kind of grace. And it just was something that I would always think of in my own dark moments, or that taking that extra breath or that extra step of thought when interacting with somebody. She just led by an example. And it was never in a way that made you feel like you were in the wrong or that you needed to learn. That she just was the example in so many ways. And she was also the example of just wit and hilarity. That's the other thing I want to mention about her. Her wit, and maybe I attribute it a lot to the Britishness of her, just being an American and the way she would speak and her way of just cracking off a joke or something. She just had such a quick mind. She could drop very easily into comedy, just as in dark comedy, and just, oh my God, she had so many facets, and I loved every one of them.
Yeah. And so, I mean, to your point before, Brett, and to your point about her wit, like, so unique, so smart, so unbelievably smart. I said to someone last night, I was talking to one person in the gallery, and I was like, the IQ is really, like, she's collectively impacted. It's really dropped. Right. And I miss having her. And, I was telling Brett, I think it was a couple days ago, that I tripped across some new evidence in one of the cases that I'm really interested in. And I turned to open my email to send a message to her. And, to that point, there's a real void. And I wonder in my head, in heaven, did she get all the answers to all the big true crime cases? Or is she running around still reporting on them? Like, which would be better for her? Hey, God, I got a couple questions for you.
Oh, yeah.
I can see it
now.
Yeah. I can imagine that. So,
And Ellie, it's funny because you mentioned at the beginning we need to talk about, or one of the things you want to talk about is the funniest moment with Jess. I can't remember because there were so many. I mean, she was, Allison's absolutely right. She was so funny. It was just constant. I can remember during the Karen Reed trial, some of the stuff she dropped on Twitter.
After that verdict was read, she messaged me immediately with something hilarious. I'd have to go find it, but oh my God, I hadn't thought about true crime in a while, and she just pops right up and just mentions that verdict, and I was like, oh man, that was like
she was literally laugh out loud funny. Like you would read what she said, and just it was hilarious. I mean, there were times where I would just crack up reading something she said. It was, and that's a gift too. And that goes to what Jason was saying about how the wit, the intelligence. I mean, she was the full package. She really was.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things too, along those lines, Brett, I wonder whether, and Allison, you saw this, she was not immovable for such a smart person who was so good. She had strong opinions on West Memphis 3, and you guys just did, I don't know, 243 episodes on it. And I just remember thinking to myself as it was going on, for Jess, was she going to end up in strong opposition, or would she do the other thing that I see people do, which is a podcaster they like has an opinion, so they just cave all their beliefs for it? I didn't think the latter would happen. It was really interesting because we talked during every one of the lives. Like, I remember being in the mountains of Montana while you were doing a live and talking to her. I remember I was traveling a lot during that time, but constantly talking to her and just seeing her, I think, in a measured way, take in every point you guys were making in every direction. I remember getting to the end and being like, well, what do you think? And, she had been a proponent of the guilt of the West Memphis 3. And she said at the end, I'm a little bit closer to having doubt. And she felt like your conclusions were reasonable. And it was really neat to me on two levels to see that, she didn't go straight defensive in opposition. And she didn't completely cave because these two people she really likes had a different opinion. And that, to me, just speaks of another thing, which I think is just that she had a lot of integrity. Yeah. A lot of integrity when it came to her beliefs and her...
I think because she believed in the truth more than she believed in her own ego and how her, because some people who have a lot of knowledge and a lot of information on a particular topic, it can be very hard to move them from that if they have hardened an opinion around it. But she really, I think, was just pursuing the truth. And if Brett and Alice were able to get her to even acknowledge that, I think that is such a powerful thing and such a rare thing to witness, because I remember in the lead up to you guys doing that case thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen if they come down on the side of innocence? And, because I have never seen, I think Jess is probably one of the most intense people I've seen in that case in general, in terms of just her amount of knowledge and her ability to convey that knowledge was just rapid fire. I've never seen anybody that smart about one thing. But I think that also, her integrity and her general intelligence, her ability to take new information and work with it and incorporate that into her view. Such a rare thing.
Allison, the last conversation Jess and I had, she was looking for some help on reporting, how to report out a story, because, the normal way you get Freedom of Information Act records, but that process takes forever. There's usually 1,000 better ways to get to documents you want. Sometimes just asking and they'll hand them over. But we were talking about different ways, and it was on a case that she had a really strong opinion on. Then she heard one fact about that day that made her reconsider everything. And so she wanted to get the records to take a look at it. And I just think that really demonstrates a lot of integrity. I also think something that stuck out to me is just her advocacy too. I mean, she really advocated for marginalized victims, and she really went far and wide to find them. I remember on that same Montana trip, I was like up in the Rocky Mountain front and some crazy hills. And I was listening to Version of Events, and I heard you guys talking about a case about a missing Indigenous person. And I just thought to myself, like, wow, that's one of the cases few people know about. I know people have been trying to get attention for it. I know who suggested that. And I remember sending Jess a note, and I was like, I know who that was for. And God bless you for doing that. Case, because it's one of those that combined the different marginalized elements. It was a man, it was a missing Native, there may have been drugs involved. And I just thought to myself, like, you really care about all those marginalized people. And she did some research for me, and the cases that she cared about, that she helped me the most on, like we did Layla Santinella, who we were focusing on that case because a lot of cases in Appalachia don't get covered. And even though she was a white woman and an attractive white woman and otherwise fit the mold, that she was in Appalachia and there were drugs involved. Ashley Loring Heavy Runner's case, Jax's case that she focused on, she really cared about these people and cared about their families. And, where I saw her probably struggle the most was when she got emotionally involved in cases, trying to keep that balance toward the truth. But she always kept on swinging back to the truth.
And that was, you talk about one of the reasons it was so great to have her around is you could feel confident that if you asked her for an opinion on a case, it was going to be grounded in facts and evidence. Like, she loved to present herself as someone who thinks everyone's guilty. She loved to put that persona out there. But
kind of an in joke after a while.
It was,
Allison, yes.
But it just wasn't true at all. Like, there were so many cases where she would admit, where she would say, no, I don't think this person did it. Where she would agree with undisclosed on a case, right? I mean, she wasn't one of these people who just had this blanket view and didn't care. It was just pushing an agenda. And that was so great. And you even talk about West Memphis 3. I mean, I knew how passionate she was about it. She helped us with some stuff. I mean, she was so great on that case. But I was never worried. I knew that she would disagree with us probably in the end, but I was never concerned that she would be angry or there'd be a backlash or anything else. I just knew she would just go to it, trying to challenge points we'd made and bring out evidence, to the contrary. That's what she was going to do. And that I appreciated that so much. And that is, you talk about, of all the things we've mentioned, you talk about a rare thing, somebody who can really try and focus on truth, as Allison said, more than their ego. You don't see that very often, but she had that in spades.
Yeah. A great example of that actually was, I had thought the day after I wanted her to write a piece about this for our Substack, our true crime Substack. And, she had written a post in the gallery about Charlie Kirk's assassination. And it was really interesting. We had a back and forth. And one of the things she said is that it was really hard for her to watch people that she loved and cared about and advocated, along with who were condoning a murder. And Jess is trans, and the American sort of right at this current moment, there's a lot of hostility, I think, between the trans community and the American right. And it just impressed me. Not that it's sui generis, right? There are people like this, that she would put herself out there as an advocate for what was right over what would have been convenient for her.
Yeah. I mean, Charlie Kirk will always bring memories of Jess, because the night that he was killed, we were on Zoom, and I was making jokes, but she knew deep down I agreed with her that, and that's why she was able to laugh at the jokes, because she was down and I was trying to cheer her up. But she knew deep down I agreed with her that, at the end of the day, murder is murder. Whether or not you liked the person doesn't matter. And she was very strong in that opinion as well, that it was wrong to, what's the word I'm looking for, to condemn someone, I guess, because of their beliefs. And she was just, I keep coming back to it, she was just so pure. I know she went through a lot, and she went through hell. And I'm not trying to lighten that at all, but it just made her such a good person. Those troubles built a person up that was just so fantastic. And I'll never, ever forget her.
Yeah. I mean, as I said earlier, one of the least hypocritical people I've ever met. And we're all hypocrites. I mean, hypocrisy is like a part of the human condition, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's really hard not to be a hypocrite. But good Lord, her ability to stick to her beliefs and her principles, even when it would have been so easy to take the other path, was remarkable. And you're right. And it made it even more remarkable because of the things she'd been through. It would have been so easy as someone who had suffered abuse and attacks and bigotry. So easy to then project that on other people. So easy to do that, but she didn't do that. It was the opposite for her. It was like the things she had gone through, the pressure, the suffering, like it had refined her in a way. I mean, it had made her, as you said, like a pure person, a better person, someone who could go through things that she went through and come out the way she did. I mean, we've been talking about sort of the last conversations we had with her, and the last conversation I had with her was similar to some of the ones you guys have mentioned. I told her how proud I was of her because she was just so impressive. And I'm so glad I said that, I'm so glad that was one of the things I told her, because it was true and it was always true.
Yeah.
And
it's really interesting, Brett, because that is one of the, after we got back from Denver and CrimeCon, that's one of the conversations I had just randomly. I thought, wow, I am so proud of you for the way that you handled everything. And, Jess had her tough moments, but I looked at one of the things I said to someone about her, and this was at CrimeCon. I said that she validated for me my belief that I should stand by anyone who's trying. Anybody who's trying validated my belief, which, I questioned it at times, but it really validated that belief. And, and I feel blessed that I got the reward of that, of standing by her. I got the reward of this unique, beautiful, intelligent, kind, sort of generous person. So it's something I won't regret.
Yeah, I'm glad that we ended every call telling each other that we're saying I love you, and that the last word she heard from me was I love you, bye. I am so glad that she knew that, and we didn't hide away that we loved each other as best friends do.
The thing is, it's weird. I've lost people before in my life, but the thing that's been difficult, I never met Jessica. I saw her on Zooms when we were doing the podcast, and she's of course cracking everybody up with the things she was saying. That was the only time I ever saw her face, but she was, by the power of her personality and her integrity and who she was, she became a true friend. And I think we're all going to die. She left this earth far too soon.
Yeah.
But the only thing really you have when you go is what you leave behind, the impact you leave behind on people, the legacy you leave behind. And she did leave the world too soon. And so it's remarkable that someone as young as she was could have the impact she had on so many people in such a positive way. And I am sad that she is gone, but I hope that everyone who is listening appreciates just who she was, the good that she did. And I hope her legacy can be trying to be more like her in so many ways, in forgiving people who offend you, even when they don't ask for it and they don't deserve it. That was something, as Jason was saying, that she was getting so good at, so much better at than I am.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that one for me too.
I mean, seriously, it was just she had come so far, and being kind to people, caring about people who no one else cares about, bringing humor into the darkest situations. I mean, she was a wonderful person. And she's someone that we all should not only remember, but try and be more like as we move forward in this broken world.
Yeah. And I think one of her legacies, I really believe, is, to your point, Brett, it was really interesting to see the outpouring of love toward her, but the number of wounds that people had that were healed because of it, or words of kindness that were said to people. I really feel like one of her legacies was, and it was true even in her death, that people picked up the baton, of the love that she shared for people, and carried it on. And that was a powerful thing to see and to imagine, that your death brings even more love into the world, just like you did when you were here. That's a heck of a thing.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, goodness.
It's hard, I know.
Yeah, I often wonder what would Jess do?
She'd crack a joke.
Yeah, totally make a joke right now. What are you all crying about?
Yeah, tell us all to cheer up.
She loved you, Ellie. I mean, you brought so much joy to her life. So I hope you know that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think, Brett, you encouraged her to be a researcher and to follow her passion. And I think that brought so much fulfillment. And then you partnered with her in that, Ellie. And I think doing this work meant so much. And I'm thrilled to hear you'll be carrying it on.
Yeah, we will carry on. How, I've yet to decide, but we will definitely be carrying on. She wouldn't want me to stop. I know that. And we just started doing something really good with Missing and Marginalized, and I don't want to stop that. That will definitely be a permanent fixture on the show. How I'm going to find these missing and marginalized people, I've yet to know, because Jess had tricks up her sleeve for that.
Could probably give you a couple suggestions.
Thank you. But yeah, I'm definitely going to continue on and continue building the podcast, but it'll be in her memory. And
I think it goes without saying, we will do whatever we can to help there. You don't have to worry. Don't worry about that.
Thank you.
We want that legacy to go on as well. So whatever you need, whenever you need it, just let us know.
Thank you. All right. I think that's a good point to say goodbye for today. I hope that you've enjoyed listening to us talk about Jess. And as Brett said, I hope that you all remember Jess, and I hope that you all know, if she knew you, how much she loved you and just how brilliant she was. Sorry, I'm getting lost.
Thanks for having us on. Thanks for
You're
giving
welcome.
us this opportunity. One of the things, well, first, Allison, who had to drop off, wanted us to give you her best. But I feel like it is, people talk about this idea of closure, and I really do think it's a myth. But I do think that there is something to be said for the value of marking transitions.
Yeah.
Just like seasons change, it gives us an opportunity to really think about what our love was, to express our love. It's a gift to even just be a part of this conversation. And I'm sure for listeners who are trying to mark this transition, it will be powerful for them too.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so. All right. So as you've heard, we will be back. I'll keep you up to date on when I will be back with new cases and still missing and marginalized, of course. But for now, this is for Jessica, and we love you, Jess. And I will see you all soon. So, we weren't the only ones who had amazing things to say about Jess. Several people got in touch with me, and they had a lot of kind words to say about Jessica, and I will read those for you now. Hi everyone, I'm just popping in here at the end to read some tributes to Jess. I hope I can get through these. So let's start with Lily, who wrote the following. In loving memory of my friend Jessica. Jessica, you were such a good friend to me. I loved you deeply, and I fought for you every step of the way. I would have done anything to defend you, to protect you, to make sure that you were okay. We shared so many amazing moments together, memories that I will carry on with me forever. My only regret is that I never got to hug you in person or spank you with my flip-flop like I always joked I would. But I hope that wherever you are at peace. I hope you know that you are missed and loved beyond words. There isn't a single day that goes by that I don't think of you. I still catch myself wanting to message you, to tell you something that happened, something I saw, or something that made me think of you. You'll always be like a little sister to me, someone I'll forever treasure. I just hope you know how much I miss you and how much I love you. Lily. Heather messaged me with this to say about Jess. She said, I first knew Jessica as Danny, and I loved having a comrade in the trenches in the West Memphis 3 groups. That evolved over into the gallery and other spaces until becoming Facebook friends. I'd always hoped I'd be able to meet Jessica on one side of the pond or the other, but thankfully we have the promise of heaven. Jessica taught the world a lot about compassion and kindness while being steadfast in your own beliefs, but not at others' expense. My world is a better place for having known her. Molly also messaged, and she said this. Although she likely would never remember our interactions on the gallery, she massively changed how I consumed true crime. While at heart I am an innocenter in most cases, she could engage from her guilty as fuck camp and get me to see the other side, even if I didn't always change my opinion. I'm a better person because I met Jessica, even for a short time, and even only virtually. This is a huge loss to the true crime community, and frankly the world. Her ability to disagree with grace was a rare gift that we desperately need in this space. My thoughts are with her closest friends and family while they navigate this untimely grief. Liv also messaged, and she wanted to tell me all about Jess, and this is what she had to say. Jessica was posting campy and colourful Tiger King memes, and we both hit it off. Her page was like a theatre of fun at the outbreak of the pandemic. It was the fun I needed. When she posted a video playfully mimicking a Carol Baskin quote about sardine oil, I was instantly attracted. Maybe it was her putting on the southern accent, she suited it, or that her brazen humour was shining through. From that, we talked every day and admitted we were attracted to one another. I could not wait to get to Coventry to see her. I got off the train from Birmingham to Coventry, and she approached me and took my hand. It was such a lovely and authentic embrace. I knew this was real. She had her girly pink hair and a Barbie shirt. She looked so stylish. That was just her. Our relationship flowed for the next year and a half. From then on, her flying to Dublin every month or so, we became very close. We cooked together, and she was such a helpful co-chef. She used to sing and chant as we were cooking or while I was driving. The good energy she brought to our chores is something I will never forget. I'm convinced the let's get this done energy is why she was so passionate about sports and loved cricket. I got her a pink cricket bat for her birthday, and it was perfect for her. I even asked her for some low-key betting advice. Amazing to have someone be both so quirky and also so worldly at the same time. I think it was really during the pandemic that she got into true crime. We went through all of the usual suspects, The Staircase, Making a Murderer, and of course, extensive coverage of the West Memphis 3. But her passion and attention to detail, not to mention her ability to research, ultimately meant she had better takes than me. In fact, I couldn't really keep up. She didn't just accept the documentary coverage at face value. She went to look at the court documents and any other documentation or online evidence she could find. To have that attention to detail, you also need a passionate drive. Hers was advocating for the downtrodden, the misfortunate, and any injustice that she saw. Her empathy was the undercurrent in everything that she did, and flowing from that, her understanding of gender-based violence. That orientation made her uniquely able to see through misconceptions and propaganda in the true crime world. She was always victim and survivor focused. I hope Jessica knew how dear she was to me and how I would have done anything for her happiness. In our relationship, we never fought. The only time we bickered was around petty disagreements over true crime. Her loving and gentle nature is something I will miss bitterly in this hostile world. I still have not come to terms with the fact that it's gone. I know her spirit is with us, and her unique ability to have very close connections with people proves that will last a lifetime. Andy messaged me, and she... Sorry, guys. Right, Andy messaged, and she said, I didn't know Jessica as well as so many in the group did. By the group, she means the gallery, the Prosecutors Podcast group. But that doesn't mean she didn't have any impact on me. All my interactions with her were lovely, and hers were comments that I never skipped over. Our deeper interactions were in the Cuties for Christ group. I hope I don't incur any harsh judgment, but as much as I enjoyed Jessica, I was a little taken aback when I saw her in the Cuties for Christ group. Please take this in the spirit in which it's intended. I had never had an experience with a trans person who was also a person of faith. I live in a small Midwestern Ohio town. I found Jessica's honesty about her gender struggles refreshing and definitely a learning experience for me. Her posts of worship songs, verses, and insights were always solid and true. She prayed for the issues I posted about, and I prayed for the issues that she posted about. In particular, it meant so much when she told me she was praying for my son, who was struggling with his mental health. My heart breaks for her son, as she spoke so tenderly about her love for him. As so many have said, I considered her a friend. It's no wonder she had such a beautiful array of people who loved her, and I am grateful for the chance I had to share space with her, because she has left an imprint I will never forget.
Hi there, my name is Jason Usry. I just wanted to say a few words about Jessica. Initially, I'd written out this whole thing, but I know she would have hated it, so I'm just going to sort of wing it, I guess. Jessica and I were completely different in so many ways. We met in the gallery, which is the Prosecutors Podcast Facebook group. And even though we talked about crime a lot, sort of the darkest subjects that humankind knows, she brought a lot of light and laughter. She was sharp as a tack. She could be witty, wry. She could cut you down if she wanted to. But she could also be exceedingly warm, totally kind, encouraging, empathetic, compassionate. She and I had gotten very close over the last year or so, mainly because of some work I was doing on a case, and she and I saw eye to eye. We also became close because she had nasty things said to her online, and I was starting to experience some of that as well. And seeing how she continued to march on without fear of judgment from people gave me a lot of strength. And so I owe a lot of my hanging in there to her. when I first heard that she was gone, I cried quite a bit. And there have been a number of times that I have wanted to reach out to her and talk about this case, or just to see how she's doing. She was one of a kind. And I'll miss her. I do miss her already. But as I said on a Facebook post, when I found out, I believe that on her way to heaven, she passed my new baby boy. And she got to meet him before we did. So, Jessica, I'll miss you. I love you. And I will see you again one day.
So, to end today's episode, I'm going to read a part of Jessica's eulogy written by her sister, Susie. So I will say goodbye to you all for now, but I will be back soon with new episodes. Jessica's passion for true crime could have just been written off as one of her hyper-obsessions. But alongside her ability to store and recall so much information, which was deeply impressive, her work had real-life positive impacts. For those who aren't aware, Jessica was able to turn her skill in researching true crime cases and taking nothing at face value into a job in the last few years, carrying out research for other podcasts as well as recording her own. She cared for victims of crime and violence and rallied against the narrative of the perfect victim. She wrote to women in prison for defending themselves against abusive partners, making sure that they didn't feel alone. She investigated and reported sensitively on the Rianne Colson case in Coventry this year, fought for justice and truth, changing the local media narrative from just calling her a sex worker to calling her a mother and using her name. Rianne's family thanked Jessica and her podcast co-host Ellie personally, thanking them for bringing the family comfort in seeing their loved one being covered in the media with respect and compassion. She rallied tirelessly for justice, and in the case of Jax Gratton, a trans woman murdered in America whose circumstances were not properly investigated by police. I want to read a small part of Jessica's dedication to Jax, as it beautifully summarised her dedication to justice. We will not let you be forgotten in an alley or erased in lines of a police note. Your name will be carried, your life remembered, and your story told until justice is done.